On the show today, we discover what the stars have in store for the property sector in the last 2 quarters of 2010, find out what qualifies an area to be one of South Africa's top 10 suburbs, plus South Africa's property sector is said to be on the road to recovery. But do the experts agree? Hello and welcome to The Real Estate. I'm Eleni, Giokos. Despite South Africa's emergence from the recession, estate agents are still battling and developers are still being cautious. With this in mind, what is needed to move the property market to the next level? Dieter Deppisch, head of property data research at the Knowledge Factory, is here to shed some light on the subject. Dieter, thank you so much for your time today. Looking at the first quarter 2010 price growth that South Africa experienced in the property market, we saw an increase of around 12%, and on a global perspective, that actually puts us in 6th place. So we started to see quite a nice recovery in terms of prices.
Absolutely. It's been very interesting to track that because since we started tracking that from the first quarter of last year, we've moved from 22nd position, then to 15th position, to 11th position, and now to 6th position on a survey of 47 countries done by Knight Frank in the UK, and which means that we're now ahead of companies, or at least countries such as the UK and New Zealand. It's just Australia, our 10th province, that is still ahead of us. But certainly we've seen recovery in global terms. South Africa is moving up a level.
Well, of course, China being the top of, the global countries that have been in this research. And it's quite interesting because Chinese property prices have increased by around 68%. So we've seen incredible growth there. But just looking at the South African market at this point in time, number of estate agents, 84,600 in around 2007. Now in 2009 and, of course, 2010, we're sitting with estate agents of around 28,000. So the number coming down quite significantly. Did this have an impact on the overall property market?
Absolutely. One has to look at it from both sides. One could say, well, there's fewer estate agents because there's fewer sales, and fewer sales dominate that particular part of the market. The part of the market that is particularly dominated by the estate agents is the 300,000 to 5 million segment. Obviously, there are sales below 300,000 and above 5 million, but that segment is where the estate agents make their money. And what's been interesting is if you track the decline in sales over the last 3 years, the decline in value of sales in the last 3 years, and the decline in the number of estate agents, it brings out some very interesting statistics. One is that the previous year, when there was around between 50 and 60,000 estate agents, on average, each estate agent could sell 2.6 properties per year, of a total value of about 2.1 million. In the past 12 months, however, because the number of estate agents has decreased faster than the decline in the number of sales, they've got a bigger slice of the pie. They're now sitting on around 4.7 sales per estate agent and about 4.2 million rand in value. So that's been a very interesting dichotomous relationship between the estate agents and the number of sales.
Another interesting stat that came to the fore, cash buyers increasing quite extensively, and it's interesting to also compare with 2007 because that was sort of prior to the National Credit Act that was implemented, and also because the pricing in terms of the house prices very high, and those were really seen as the boom years. 19% increasing to 35% on full title, and in terms of sectional titles from 25% to 43%.
43%.
Exactly. So cash buying seems to be the name of the game right now.
Well, we have to qualify those statistics. There's two things. Number one, you mentioned correctly, in June of 2007 is when the NCA really started having an impact. And what happened then as South Africa moved into recessionary factors that started affecting the economy, some investors moved some of their funds from other asset classes such as stocks and bonds where they weren't performing very well, liquidated those assets and then put that into property, which, although it's a safer haven, has far, the growth and return on investment is a little bit less. But they felt that was a safer haven. But for the most part, the number of cash buyers hasn't increased that much. Statistically, the percentage has increased. Why? Well, in 2007, if I can just use my hands as an illustration, you had this pool of buyers. And within this pool of buyers, you had a segment which was the cash buyers. They've always been there. But now with the pool of overall all buyers contracting, the percentage of cash buyers is now far more bigger pot or far more significant portion of a much smaller pool. And so we've seen that cash buyers, particularly with distressed sales, are populating the auction houses. We see distressed sales also from bank repossessions, and the investors are having an absolute party because they're able to pick up deals at incredible, up to 45% discounts, as it were, on market prices. And we've seen that particularly in the sectional title because that's where it's popular, and that's why the sectional title is moved up to 43%. Have purchased a property in the last 12 months without the need of a bond.
Okay, I'd like for you to also give us a comment on race diversity, because that's also quite a key element when it comes to the buying trends that have emerged. And also if we could just start looking at the overall South African economy, because double dip scenario is still very much on the cards, and this is what many investors out there say. Others say that it's a very unlikely scenario. We've got other internal issues that we need to deal with. Inflation could become a problem down the line, and we also know that unemployment is a big factor in the South African economy.
We have a 25% unemployment rate, which certainly affects the South African economy. But just coming back to your first comment with regards to the racial profile, from 2005, around 60% of all buyers, this is FNB's data, was 60% were white. Move that 5 years on to 2010, and you have around 56% of buyers are now non-white. So there's definitely a trend that's moving in that direction, which is the right direction, because we're seeing that more and more previously disadvantaged individuals are now entering the home buying market. However, on the other side, the flip side of the coin, you have an anomaly, which is that estate agents, close to 90% of estate agents are white, and selling more and more to non-white buyers. And so that dynamic between these two groups is going to be very interesting to see how that unfolds going forward. I know that the Estate Agencies Affairs Board and the Institute of Estate Agents is working hard to make the number of estate agents more representative of South Africa's population. But so far, we haven't seen much movement in that direction.
Dieter, thank you very much for those insights. We'll leave it there for now.
Thank you.
Is it the location, the low crime statistics, or the beautiful views that make an area sought after? Also, what makes a suburb eligible to be one of South Africa's top 10? Dieter Deppisch is still with us. Dieter, just looking at some of the statistics, what has come to the fore? I mean, what is it about the specific suburbs that you have been looking at that make them so attractive and of course, just making it, the top sellers in the South African economy?
Crime plays a role. I know that might sound like a negative factor, but the need for people to stay in a secure environment, developments, which we give a generic name, we call them gated communities, have become very popular. And so suburbs that have a large proliferation of gated communities do very well. People are specifically in the price range between 850 and 1.2 million. That price segment is what one often will find in a gated community, and you find that that is a great driver as far as the economy is concerned. The average age of buyers has moved up. From about 3 years ago, you were sitting on around 31, 32 years of age. That's moved up to 37, 38 years of age. And they are young couples, they've got children, they're looking for access to schools and other amenities such as gyms and sports facilities, such as golf estates. And those are some of the drivers in those top 10 suburbs.
Well, at the top, 81 sales, Western Cape and Milnerton in the suburb, Parklands. So this obviously coming top.
Parklands has a lot of gated communities. And so we've seen that both in the Western Cape, along the Garden route, where sales have dipped a little bit. KZN, Gauteng, and in the Free State as well, you're finding, whether it be sectional title or full title, freestanding homes within a gated community. Those are very popular with families, up-and-coming families in that age group that I've just mentioned.
Well, just looking at the Gauteng province, looking at what came out tops. In Soweto, Protea Glen, 67 units sold.
Protea Glen is one of the emerging black diamond areas in Soweto. Although the house prices there aren't very high, but interestingly, we've actually found that some black families who previously moved to white-dominated suburbs are now seeing the value to actually move back to Soweto, and Protea Glen is one of those popular suburbs.
Midstream Estates in Centurion also quite popular, and of course, as you're talking about
gated
communities.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Douglasdale, Greenstone also coming to the fore, Waltervreden Park in Roodepoort, and Tableview in the Western Cape. Just some of the ones that sort of hit the top. And, you know, looking at the sales that have come to the fore, it's quite interesting that the trends will probably continue like this. But where does it leave the rest of the suburbs? Is it about everyone getting towards the trend of being a gated community? Because there's also been a lot of outcries with regards to this.
Gated communities are here to stay. What we have, however, seen is that developers for the last 3 quarters have really become development shy. We've seen a close on 40% decline in the number of residential houses completed, both in gated communities and outside of gated communities year on year. And what's happened is, because of the uneasiness in the real estate market right now, many developers are holding off. They've bought land. Some of them have even serviced that land. They've put roads and services in place, but they're not actually starting to market or sell those properties yet, simply just waiting for the economy, and particularly the real estate economy, to recover, ease off, and then they're going to start building. What that's going to create, however, is a lag. And once the current stock is mopped up in the market, you're actually going to see house prices start moving upwards again.
Dieter, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you so much for your insights. Right, we're going to a short commercial break, but there's still lots more to come right here on The Real Estate, so stay tuned. You're still tuned into The Real Estate.